By the way, I want to ensure we understand real estate is fighting back, and we'll get into this in numbers, okay? It's not bleak, but I want to look at the tangible facts, Hey, this is Darwin, and you're tuning into GENPOD, Generation Pod, where I try and bring common sense to everyday scenarios that we're experiencing for success measures. Common sense isn't that common, so I'd like to bring some to the table. We've got a good show here today, some really interesting topics, and I hope you agree. First on the list, we'll elaborate more. Roommates, their age span and life groups are expanding. We'll get into that and some whys behind it, right? It definitely goes with today. Business, we're going to look at there's a neat article I reviewed with CNBC. I'm a pro over there. Investors are doing something a little different. I can't say that I'm surprised. And we'll jump into that as well. And then we're gonna take the opportunity to discuss some technology kind of scenarios, how to get ahead, how to ensure that you're not a casualty to what we're seeing. Thanks for joining. All right, so let's start off. Okay, did you know a fourth of all roommates are now 45 years or older? Wow. I'm 46 and it's okay. Wow. I mean, roommating is something you do in your 20s. It's seen as kind of, I'm just going to call it, irresponsible perception, technically, right? Although I never saw it that way. I saw it as smart, given the situations. But now a fourth of all roommates are 45 years or older. Okay, that is a huge indicator of a few things to me, okay? And we'll get into it more with, our numbers review, but I'm going to touch on it now. Affordability index. When it comes to cutting jobs and, moving money into different sectors, and just downright no longer having a role, right, a career, income just isn't where it used to be at. Income to cost just isn't where it used to be at. We've got a couple wars, I'd say, but one we're actively involved in, right? I haven't even begun to touch inflation, but 45 years older roommates, and that's as the average kind of age for buying a home is now at that age as well. So the question is, what came first? Is it the roommates 45 years old? Which I kind of believe it's the roommate situation is second to the home buying age group, which means the roommate scenario, by the way, check out one of my articles. I called this about a year ago, approximation. It could be about 7 months, but you get it, 7-8 months ago. But if the age group for homes, purchases, loans, acquiring a home has increased to this age group of 45 years old. And now the second variable is that a fourth of all roommates are 45 years or older. That is indicating a few things. Okay? That is indicating the strain is real. I feel like that's going to pull from the age group of buying a home. By the way, I want to ensure we understand real estate is fighting back, and we'll get into this in numbers, okay? It's not bleak, but I want to look at the tangible facts, So it's something about quantitative data, right? But qualitative data is trend. It's the trend. It's the real trend. So what that means for people who may not know what quantitative is or qualitative, and it's okay, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Quantitative is more numerical data, okay? Percentages, yeah. Qualitative, I see, is more patterns. So you can see one thing on numbers, but if people are doing another one, right? Kind of got to go with what people are doing. So that's something to look for. Think about that. 45 years or older. I know my mom had me at 18 years old. Now, of course, there could be a number of things going with that, right? People are maybe trying to transition. They want to go into entrepreneurship, and they're finding like-minded individuals, right? And they're pairing up, doing the smarter way. Hey, we could do half. We can serve for a year, 2 years, and maximize it, which is okay because I could see you trying to take advantage of that. But I think it could be an affordability issue. Not I think. I know, and we'll get into it. Well, I know there's an affordability issue, but I don't know if that's exactly what this contributes to. But I can tell you what, it's pointing that way. And, does this mean more people are, not starting a family as often as early, right? I mean, let's be real. Who wants to bring a child into the world if you can barely afford to make a home for the child? I mean, anyone who thinks like that, like it's almost like, because children are a joy, right? But it's almost like if you had a choice, you'd pause and wait a little bit until you're sound. So I found that rather interesting. 45 years or older. I'd like to see, what's going on here in about, another a year or two, with the housing numbers, right? Not everything's based on interest rate. Interest rate follows the U.S. Treasury, right? 10-year, right? People got to get paid back before that interest rate goes down. Did you know that? Check it out. U.S. Treasury bond. People got to get paid. Interest rate follows that, by the way, just so you know. Yeah, okay, and I'm just leave it at that. 45 years or older. Shout out to those who have the, I don't even want to say courage, because courage sounds like you're just doing something astronomically wrong. Because you're not doing anything wrong, but just not giving a care what other people think. Some people will slave to try and keep up a facade. And some people are like, you know what? I want to go through a tough, rough patch to get to my sweet spot quicker. And that's what this could be. So, yeah. That'll be interesting to see what happens here in a couple years. 45 years or older. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. I was reading, and I'm gonna probably lose the logo here in a little bit, but I was reading a CNBC article. What's the official title? Let me see. Market rotation. Investors are selling 21st century innovators to buy 19th century businesses. What do you think that means? Are investors scared of the technology bubble? Wow. I'm not Kramer. I'm not a stock analyst, okay? So this is not real estate advice, or excuse me, stock market advice. I want to get that out there, okay? I'm merely reporting what's out there. So investors are going reverse on technology investments, okay? I'm not saying they're running from it. Do not quote me on that, okay? Because there's money all over the place here. But they're opting for more, I'll say, dare I say, antiquated business models versus tech advancement. I don't know what to think about that. Well, I do know what to think about that, of course. I'm here. But, I kind of want to reserve my thought process on that just a little bit to not feed the direction. But I found that rather interesting. Let's see, what did we say in that article that kind of caught my eye? So the catchphrase, get this, the catchphrase of this rotation has been out with the new, in with the old. Wow. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes people recycle mates. It's what you feel comfortable with is what it comes down to. So what that means is some investors aren't comfortable with technology. And I think it's not just technology, but I think there's so many players in the game. I don't want to pinpoint a name, in general, because I just don't want to do that. I don't want to be that person, but we know the names of AI. Some people just aren't comfortable with it. The model probably create some uncertainty to some individuals that are used to kind of a standard, investing process. So, what do you think about that? Are you scared of AI? Are you scared of kind of tech? Let's just call it tech. AI has become synonymous with tech now. Are you scared of tech? Or are you afraid of some of the tech company models and maybe them not utilizing human intellect enough, potentially? That is an equation to a lot of things. You can't take the human element out of things and expect for it to be flawless. You just can't. You can't. Okay? You just can't. And this is why I can say these are smart. Companies are smart. They're not trying to replace people with AI, but they have seen the ability to cut expenses in an area due to easily automatable scenarios with AI, right? And if you're in one of those roles, and if you've been comfortable in one of those roles for years, then you're going to get cut. You're going to get cut. That's just the way it is. It's just too easy of a process, I mean, spend lots of money here or move it, spend less, still get the same thing done or more, machine, keep in mind, right? No overtime, nothing along those lines. And then shift the need for human ability over here. Which brings me to my next point, our AI sector. Comes to who moved my cheese. Hopefully you guys have seen that. And without being too overly too much is what I'm going to say. It simply says this. You know how a mouse gets kind of familiar? You've seen the lab rats? They get kind of familiar with where the smell is coming from, and they just go to this scenario, this spot, and then all of a sudden one day they go and the cheese isn't there. Now, I'm not calling you a rat, but it's kind of like that mentality, because the cheese, which we're going to call that cheese the gold, the money, the dinero, all that stuff has moved to the other side of the room. And I mean, you could either be, kind of proactive in understanding this and, taking advantage of, company incentives like education refunds. What are we calling it now? I forgot the name. I definitely took advantage of that. Reimbursement. Or even free certification programs to within those companies to migrate to the AI side of things. So, I mean, a cool kind of secondary thing to attempt. And I'm looking to do that. By the way, I'm only told one person, but I'm going to tell you this. I mean, I'm one of those people, I was doing nano degrees whenever I was, I'll just say within corporate America leadership. I'd like to know more about coding. I've coded websites and stuff, so I'd like to have a certification in coding, just for myself. So that's how I think people need to think to stay relevant. That's the word. And let's face it, business is a business. They can be insolved, and through bad decisions. So you can't really be angry at them. Now, am I saying every decision is the right decision? I can't answer that, right? But I can tell you these people, for the most part, these people, as employees, they care about their employees, right? They don't want to just, this is life altering for their employees. So jump ahead. Really, really, really look within yourself and see what you could do to, head off any changes. Obviously, this isn't any magic pill to what's going on, but I think where people, actually I've seen it, where people miss the buck at is even knowing what to do and just not doing it, not executing. And let's call it, that's kind of lazy. I've been 40, 50 hours a week and been in school, college. It's what's important to you, right? So yeah, let's share a little responsibility with that. Yeah, I think that's a good little kind of segue, kind of ending point for this podcast here. Little common sense nugget, right? Understand you're not going through it alone, right? It can seem scary. You can get it done through planning and preparation and execution. You do have to have skills that you follow through on, right? All right, so today we had a really kind of, I'd say, a mind-provoking conversation, 3 different sectors. So, roommating, it's okay. You're not lazy. We get it. Everyone gets it, okay? 45 years or older, it's what it is. It's reality, okay? Just take advantage of it if that's the situation. And guess what? If you want a roommate till you're 60, 70, that's your business, by the way. And honestly, anyone who's that involved in your business needs to be paying your bills. Second, business article investors, they're turning backwards. I'll say backwards, but they're going back to non-techie type scenarios. That doesn't mean every investor is going back to non-techie. I think investors go where they're comfortable. And then finally, Move My Cheese AI. Come on, let's get with it. There's so many resources out there. Use your company to get what you need, and definitely be a valid, relatable, relative entity within that entity. With that said, I'm signing off. Wonderful podcast, episode 2. Thanks for joining me. Remember, common sense is not that common. Talk soon.